Hi everyone, welcome to Musical Mondays. Today, Chloe, we're going to be meeting a great instrument.
We're meeting the double bass, the largest string instrument in the entire orchestra. We're also going to be meeting two amazing bass players, my friend Kathryn Bradley and
Keith Wymer, principal bassist of the Eugene Symphony. But Chloe, you and Kathryn have been playing together in the New World Symphony.
yeah, we've been playing together for a really long time. We went to Rice University together at the same time, and she also joined New World Symphony when I was there. So we've performed in a lot of different places together, from Carnegie Hall to Miami Beach to Houston.
Well, I'm so glad you two had a chance to catch up, and we're looking forward to sharing with you Chloe and Kathryn talking about the bass.
Hi, Kathryn. Thank you so much for joining us on today's Musical Mondays episode, where you're going to talk about your instrument, the double bass. So first things first, we know each other from playing at New World Symphony together in Miami, but we also went to Rice together, which is pretty exciting. Tell us about yourself. Where are you from? Where'd you go to school? How did you get to this point in your career?
Thanks, Chloe. So my name's Kathryn Bradley. I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, and I went to the Peabody Conservatory for my undergrad, and then I went to Rice with Chloe for my master's. And right after graduation, I joined New World Symphony about 2 years ago.
That's awesome. And how did you get to start playing the bass? I mean, it's such a huge instrument. It seems like quite an investment.
I have such like a funny way of starting. It was just, we got to choose either violin, viola, cello, or bass for fifth grade. And I was in fourth grade, and I remember being like, I want to play bass next year. But they only chose like basically the tall kids. And believe it or not, I was a tall kid back then. And all the cool kids were playing bass. And I was like, I want to play bass next year. So I learned all of the like testing out material on my cello like 6 months, a year early, so that I could start playing the bass as soon as possible.
That's awesome. So how long have you been playing the bass now for?
So I've been playing the bass since I was 10. So I've been playing it for almost 17 years.
Wow. And I know you just got a new instrument. Can you tell us about it?
I did. So this was a bass that was finished last year by the maker Daniel Hatches, and he is in Washington State. And it's just an incredible modern instrument, and I'm super happy to have it.
Cool. And I noticed at the top of your bass you have an extension or something like that. Can you tell us about that? Because the other string instruments don't have that.
Yeah, great. So this is only on a double bass. It's called an extension. It goes on the lowest string, which is usually an E string. But when all of these gates are closed, it stays at an E. Mm-hmm. But you can open it up, and then it goes down a half step to an E flat, and each one is a half step, and it goes all the way down to a C natural.
That's so cool. So
yeah,
obviously you're the lowest string instrument in the orchestra. Like, what is your role in the orchestra? Like, what do you do most of the time when you're playing an orchestra?
So we don't get the melody very often like the violins do, but we get to support every other instrument when they have the melody. So like in a Brahms symphony, when the violins are singing gorgeous melodies over there, we'll maybe like have a pizzicato, so we'll be like 4-1, like, you know, and we just like add to their melody, and we're really just there to add emphasis and support the entire orchestra.
That's really cool. And how many of you are there typically in a section?
It varies from 6 to 8 people.
Wow, that's a lot of
sometimes yeah, sometimes in a big piece we'll even add on a ninth.
Wow, that's really cool. And how do you travel with your bass?
It's not easy. When I first started playing bass, my mom and I had an agreement. She said the only thing that she was going to help with if I was going to play the bass was she's going to hit the button on her car to open the trunk. And she said that's all she did. And to this day, she has never carried my bass for me. So you have to use 2 hands usually, and you have to be very careful. And when you're walking with it, because it's about 30 pounds. But when we fly to auditions and fly home and fly around the country, you have to put it in this massive case, which my sister calls my spaceship, because that's what it kind of looks like. And that weighs about 100 pounds.
Wow, that's crazy. So, I mean, obviously it's such a cool instrument and you get to do all these interesting things with it, and it's such a dedication to play the bass, but obviously it pays off big time when you play an orchestra. What are some of your favorite orchestra pieces to play, or maybe a favorite memory that you have with performing?
My first favorite memory of playing bass was in the St. Louis Symphony Youth Orchestra. We were playing Dvorak 9, Symphony Number 9, the New World Symphony. And I just remember we had the melody like once, and I just remember being like, oh my gosh, we are the all-stars in this right now. No one else knew except for the basses, but I just had so much fun playing in that like gorgeous hall. And then later on, playing in college, like at Rice University with that orchestra was absolutely amazing. And last year when New World Symphony went on tour to Carnegie Hall, we played Symphony Fantastique, which has so many great bass lines, and that was definitely a highlight of my career so far.
For sure, mine too. I think actually we could probably put a link to that performance in the description for this video and maybe direct people to it, because it was such a cool performance and you really get to see all the different parts of the orchestra as well.
Yeah.
Okay, and then what else do you do in your spare time other than playing the bass?
I like to do yoga and I like to cook a lot. I've been walking around Miami Beach because I'm here with pretty much alone with just a couple friends. So I like to walk around and I like to take pictures of all the weird animals that you see around Miami Beach, like iguanas and different lizards and toads, and then I send them to my niece back home in St. Louis.
That's awesome.
So I will be playing the bass solely from the opera Otello by Verdi.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Kathryn. It was such a pleasure to have you on our little show today, and we hope to see you soon.
Thanks, Chloe.
Okay.
That was fun. It's
That was
great to
super
see you and Kathryn catching up, and man, what an incredible player.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just amazing, you know, the idea of moving the bass around and how difficult that is and what an investment it is at a young age, but the payoff is completely amazing.
For sure. Well, let's meet the principal bassist of the Eugene Symphony, Keith Wymer. We had a great conversation with him and talking about why he got into playing the bass and the many fun things that he enjoys on that instrument. Hi, Keith. Thanks for joining us to introduce us to the bass, the lowest instrument of the string section,
Yeah.
and just a very impressive instrument when you're up with it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So what drew you to the bass originally? I mean, it's such a huge instrument. Did you start it when you were young?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually started early on cello and some other instruments. Actually, my father was a musician, so we grew up with a lot of guitars, basses, drums in the house. He wasn't a classical musician, but that stuff was always very accessible. And remember, I was 5 or 6 and snuck downstairs. He had all this stuff set up and started playing on the drum set. And he came down and I thought I was going to get in trouble and everything. And he sat down with me and kind of taught me, some simple, like a rock beat or whatever, and threw a record on and went upstairs and left me to just jam. And that was really, they were always just really supportive like that. And so that's how it kind of started. I played cello, switched to electric bass in junior high because I wanted to play jazz. And I played in public school, just pretty normal stuff. I was lucky to go to a public school with a good music program in Portland. And so I played upright in orchestra kind of because that was the requirement to play in jazz band. But I really wanted to play electric. I played in rock bands with friends and pretty typical stuff. But I came to classical bass pretty late. And actually didn't really take serious classical lessons until I had graduated high school. And yeah, and that's when I kind of decided, well, I love jazz and bass is such an important role in that. But I had some, I played in Portland Youth Philharmonic for a year. I just had these experiences in the orchestra that really started making me head that way. And yeah, when I went to college at North Texas, I kind of didn't know what I was going to do. And it just became apparent. And the bass was just always kind of there in one way or another. And yeah, I never thought about anything else, So.
That's amazing.
Do you still play those other genres like jazz and rock?
Not with any proficiency, no. I wish. Actually, when the pandemic started and things closed down, I actually bought an electric bass as kind of a way to pass the time. And now I find playing a fretted instrument a little more challenging for whatever reason. So no, I don't. My rock dreams are long gone. Yeah. So.
Well, they're always there waiting on the side. You never know.
Right, maybe, yeah.
I mean, San Francisco Symphony just did that awesome collaboration with Metallica.
Yeah. See, maybe it'll happen someday. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, my dream is to work with the Who because my dad raised me on their music, and of course, they got rock operas like Quadrophenia, which they can perform with full orchestra. So one of these days, that's
it's only a matter of time. Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I want to do.
Stay ready. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the instrument of the bass. I mean, it's absolutely the largest of the string instruments. I mean, first of all, just I guess, the instrument itself, how does it connect to the other instruments? Let's say, the cello, which is one of the lower instruments, but I think you're quite a bit lower than that, and your strings aren't exactly the same pitches as well.
That's absolutely right. So some differences with the bass, called double bass, upright bass, acoustic bass, bass fiddle, contrabass. It's got a bunch of different names. When you hear double bass, you think, well, it's maybe roughly 2 times as big as a cello, or twice the size. But the connotation really has more to do with the fact that we double a lot of cello parts in octave below them. And so when you hear the orchestra and you hear kind of that groundswell sometimes, beginning of also Sprach, really deep sounds, that's what the bass is providing. And it also enables then the other string players, the different string families, to kind of branch out in their parts on top of that. And yeah, the foundational role is really amazing, especially when you can get a section of 6 or 8 players together. It really is very gratifying in its own way.
So you've gotten to play in orchestra a lot. You've played in orchestras all over the place. What's been your most favorite piece to play in orchestra?
It's a great question. As I'm sure you guys understand, it changes pretty frequently. It's hard to pick one. But Yeah, that year after high school, when I played in Portland Youth Philharmonic, we played a lot of good rep, including Mahler 1. But we played Brahms 4, and that was really eye-opening for me. And I would have to go with Brahms 4. Any Brahms, really, but Brahms' father was a bass player, and so there's this kinship there, I think, and the parts are just written very idiomatically for the instrument, challenging in their own way, but you can tell there's just the layout is really satisfying and works well on the bass. And yeah, in particular, the slow movement I'm really fond of. But Brahms 4 is one of those pieces for me, as I'm sure we all have, that kind of presented itself at different stages in my life. So I played it when I was younger, and then I played it maybe in school and at summer festivals, and then, professionally in different groups. And so it carries like a certain personal weight for me. Yeah.
That's great.
I feel the same way about Don Juan. I feel like I've done that with just about every ensemble level and geographical location. And it's great to have those pieces that you kind of can take with you and see how they change from place to place.
Absolutely.
Well, before we let you go, we're always curious, what are the things that you enjoy doing most when you're not playing the bass? What are the things outside of music that you enjoy doing?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, I love spending time outdoors, got to get outside, hiking, camping, golfing, anything outside, really. Try to stay active, lift a little bit, run a little bit. Really enjoy spending quality time with good family and friends, the occasional poker game, nothing too crazy. So, yeah.
Sounds awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope everyone enjoyed learning about the bass from you and hearing some of the most amazing moments for the bass and orchestra.
Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Well, I am wishing I had learned how to play the bass.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too.
Well, at least your instruments are comparable in size, the harp and the bass. So
absolutely.
It's not too bad. Well, I hope you all had a great time. Thank you so much for joining us. And next week we're going to stay in the string family for one final instrument. The instrument that is most common in the string family that we have 30 of in an orchestra.
The violin.
The violin. So we're actually going to talk with someone who owns a violin workshop, and so you'll actually get to not only learn about how a violinist plays the instrument, but also like the history of the instrument and how it's made, and it's a really cool time. So we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks, everyone.
See you next time.